And welcome to Savage and Average. I'm your host, Matt McChesney. Welcome to the podcast, as always. Remember, you can go on all the platforms on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram, and on TikTok, and just type in 60 Academy or Savage and Average, and everything will pop up, and you can follow and subscribe. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube as well. Big thanks to everybody last week for a great show. We had Coach Jason Brown on from the Netflix show Last Chance U last week, and he rocked the mic, and we had a great show last week. And it is my honor and pleasure to bring on my man Gabe Knapton, who runs Different Breed Sports Performance up in northern Colorado, trying to help as many of these Colorado kids as possible. And we're going to dive into that head first, just like your boy here. Gabe is a 7-year vet of the CFL. Played up there for Montreal, and a proud Wyoming Cowboy. If you see him on social media every Saturday, he's definitely repping the Cowboy ups up there at Wyoming. Gabe, welcome to the show, brother. How the hell are you? And let's get rolling, huh?
Well, I'm good. I appreciate you guys having me on. Just hanging out. Got off work this morning. I'm a fireman up in Thornton Fire Department, so was 2 days on, and now I'm off. I got a 4-day weekend pretty much, so I appreciate you all having me on.
Man. You're fighting fires and high school coaches, huh? How's that going?
I don't know which one's harder, but I tell you what, both of them give me a run for my money. So
now, as everyone knows, I own 60 Football Academy down in Denver, and for the last going on 14 years now, we've helped countless kids get into college and develop, and, it's really a mecca for the serious athlete down in Denver. And one thing I've noticed here up at Different Breed, what is this, like the fourth year of Different Breed, right?
Yeah, I think we're going on 4. Third year, going on 4. Yeah.
Is you're helping a ton of kids up north as well with recruiting and development and the mental part of it, pushing themselves, being tough, being accountable, going to class, doing all the little things that it seems so hard for kids to do these days. And I know you get a lot of blowback just like I do. Why do you, just ex-pro to ex-pro, bro, why do you think that they go down that road?
I don't know. I catch myself thinking about this constantly, like just the level of entitlement nowadays. It upsets me. I think there's I don't know what it really is, but I think there's a lot of entitlement in athletes nowadays where they think that they don't have to put in the work, that they don't have to put in the hours, they don't have to get in the gym and grind, they don't have to watch film. Like, they think that it all comes to them, just naturally comes to them. And my job, what I'm doing is, at first I was like, you know what, I'm going to be a strength coach. I'm going to be a positional coach. I'm going to help these kids get through. And now I find myself more of mentoring these kids through life, to where I'm like, listen, football is one thing, but life is hard. Life's going to beat the shit out of you. And guess what? Life doesn't care when you're down, because when you're down, it's going to kick the shit out of you. So I find myself, I want to toughen these kids up. I want to get and they learn it all through football. Football is a great teaching aspect of, a sport.
It's the best teacher in the world. It's the only place where guys like you and I can be guys like you and I. We can't walk into Safeway and just DDT the fucking guy putting up the cornflakes. You know what I'm saying? So I look at it like, from my 12-year-old team that I'm working with, for my young kids with my son, and all the guys at the gym, Travis Jones, the COO for 60, and the producer here at Savage and Average, the guy behind the microphone, his son, Connor, was in the program forever, still is, and now he's a full scholarship early enrollee at Michigan. And I look at the kids who finish and buy in and wake up at 5 a.m. and bust their ass and do what I ask them to do, and take me on their ass too, because I'm not easy to get along with when it comes to these guys. I have a very high standard, and I hold them to it. And I feel like so many coaches now are friends with their players, as opposed to, I was scared shitless of Chris Wilson when I was at Colorado. I was scared shitless of my high school coaches. I didn't want to let anybody down. I also knew that this was my bridge to what I wanted. I feel like there's a lot of kids in our state. I know you love Colorado as much as I do, and you want to see it great. And even though you're a Wyoming Cowboy, I know you don't like the fact that CU and CSU are as bad as they are, because it doesn't help us at all. It makes our state look bad.
It does.
Do you think that there's a difference, and just more than like, it's not a physical difference, but do you think there's a mental difference between kids 20 years ago and our old asses now? Because 20 years ago we were playing. You were playing as of 3 years ago, still playing. So do you think that there's a mental difference?
I think, yeah, I do. It's hard because sometimes I think that, and I'm like, you know what? I'm like, these kids nowadays, I'm like, oh, they've changed. They've changed. They're not as hard. They're not as tough. They're not as driven. But then I'll get some in that I'm like, that's me. That used to be me.
Yeah, so, that's a tough bitch.
It's hard. Yeah, exactly. It's hard to say. I think it's just I see it more, but I think there's more athletes. There's more kids trying to play college ball, and I think there's more kids trying to play college ball that don't understand what it takes. Like they don't have a full. I think maybe at home they're being told, well, you could do whatever you want to do. Just believe it. But then you don't have to put in the work, and you don't have to do the shit that sucks. The suck is what's the hard part. The suck is what separates everybody.
Yes, the process.
And I can't tell you how many, mothers or, which blows my mind. I have a bunch of moms calling me and telling me what I should be doing different. And I'm a very nice guy. I don't like conflict, but I will always shoot them straight. I will. And I'll be like, listen, this is my number one line I give to all my athletes. If you work for me, I'll work for you. If you work hard for me, I'll work hard for you. And it's pretty simple. If I've got somebody that comes into my gym and they come one time and I bust their ass, I put them through a workout that's meant to build mental toughness and, some character. And then I don't see them for a few months. And then all of a sudden I get a call that's like, hey, what's going on for the recruiting stuff? And I always answer with this. I go, what recruiting?
Yeah,
it's not happening. Yeah, I haven't seen him in months. So I don't know. I think a lot of things are thrown around, like the pacification of society. I don't know if that's a thing. Like I said, I have a handful of core guys. Just like you'd probably get on any team. You got a handful of core guys that you're like, these guys want it. You know what? They might not be the best athlete. They might not be the fastest. But I'll tell you what, if I'm going to put a team together, I'm going to put these guys here because this guy, number one, he ain't going to give up. And what I tell all my kids that I bring in here is when I was playing, trying to make college ball, trying to chase my dream, I was never the best athlete. I was never the fastest. I was never the strongest. But I knew one thing that I control was I can outwork mostly anybody I was going up against. Work is something that you can control. Hard work, getting up at 5 a.m. is something that you can control. Everybody can do it. Everybody can. So just those things that you can control, be good at them. When people are resting, get up and bust your ass in the gym. I used to get off on that shit. That used to make me hard. When I would go work out, when I knew everybody was sleeping, Christmas morning, New Year's Eve night, when I knew everybody was partying or sleeping and I could get up and do some work, that made me go. Because I'm like, listen, nobody else is doing it right now, but I'm going to be the motherfucker that's doing it. You know what I mean?
I'm telling you, Gabe.
So that's what
brother. You sound.
I'm trying to teach
like
it,
I'm
man.
talking to myself in the mirror. It's true, bro. I mean, it sounds like I'm talking to myself in the mirror. This is exactly what I preach and talk about constantly. It's. I can't tell you how many people walk into 6-0, sign up. I tell them the blunt truth. I'm not as nice as you are, but at the same time, I'm okay. I'm kind of nice. And I told them the blunt truth, don't sign up if you're not going to do this. This is an investment. This is not just 24-hour fitness. I'm the anti-24-hour fitness. Like this is about chasing your dreams and getting better. And we have people that don't show up for 6 months and then just roll back in football season like, hey, can I go on some recruiting trips? And I'm like, who the fuck are you? You're in the
exactly.
So, look, I think that Colorado has got some really great players. Before we move on to the rest of the show, they've got some great players in Colorado. There's been some dudes that came out of the state, including both of us. I think that they could, and I include Wyoming in this when I say the state, because they need to build a fence around Colorado too. They recruit the shit out of Denver. It's CU, CSU, Wyoming, and Air Force, and I'm going to take Air Force out of that because Air Force recruits the shit out of Colorado. If those other three schools can really just figure out a way to keep everybody here, I think that there's greatness on the horizon for these guys, and not just going somewhere and playing. Yeah, something you said when we were talking really struck me is that more people are trying to get college scholarships now than ever. And I agree with that. And this is why, in my opinion, somebody somewhere, and it could have been me, it could have been you for all I know, who they heard, said that, yeah, you can do this. But in my heart of hearts, this isn't for everybody. But you can't do it. We can at least try and weed you out before you run down this road. I think there's a lot of free school seekers. There's a lot of kids who just want to go to school for free. And unfortunately, the system allows that. But at the end of all of it, when you're looking for a college scholarship and that's the only thing you're looking for, I always tell everybody I work with, I'm not trying to get Josh Bates to Oklahoma or Henning to Washington or St. Aubin to Yale. And that's just the kids this year. I'm not just trying to get them there. I'm trying to make sure they fucking stay there and they leave a legacy and that they can walk onto the field like you can walk into the war and say, yo, I'm back. And they're just like, here you go, coach, welcome to the war. And I can walk into Folsom without a ticket and just walk onto the field with my sons. And they're like, welcome home. That's at the NFL level, the CFL level. It's a business, dog. That's not the way it is.
Yeah.
But at your college, that's the way it's supposed to be. And I'm trying to tell all these kids constantly, getting there is not the fucking goal. Staying there and being a player and being able to get through the winter conditioning and the adversity and people transferring and all the other bullshit, being a fucking being a pillar for that franchise and for that program moving forward is what this is about. And I'm sure you feel the same way about that, right?
Oh, 100%. I don't know. With all the transferring and stuff like that, when my idea of college football is I got offered by Wyoming. I got offered by other schools too. But guess what? I'm a fucking poke and I'm a cowboy and I'm going to stay there. And you know what? There's going to be times that they're going to be like, you know what? Maybe this guy's a little better. I'm going to push myself through that. And I'm going to remain a cowboy, and I'm going to come out on top. I think with the transferring and all that stuff, it takes that away a little bit. I love what you're saying. Like when you're committed to a place, you find a way. Whether it's I find a way to be a buff, or I find a way to be a poke, or I find a way to be a ram, whatever it is, you put in work. I think this is a big problem in just the whole recruiting, the whole playing ball. Like, I think there's too many ways out. I think when you're met with adversity now, and what's too many ways out. There's too many ways out. When you're met with adversity now in college football, the new ruling, and I'm all for guys playing. I'm all for guys making a little bit of extra money. I'm cool with that. But the thing is, if you've always got a way out, and then all of a sudden, you're not playing, but somebody else calls you, and then you go, oh, I'm just going to transfer. I'm going to go try to play here. The thing that I see the most, people that transfer all the time, they never end up succeeding that great. If you constantly are faced with adversity and you go, okay, that's cool, I'm going to go somewhere else. Even in high school, you see it now. Oh, well, I'm not getting my spot. Oh, I'm going to transfer here. Okay, that didn't work. I'm going to transfer here. I understand it works out for some people where they transfer, they succeed. But the more times you're bouncing around everywhere, that's a pattern. So something ain't working. Whether it's your work ethic, whether it's you and your coaches, meshing, it just ain't working. So the thing is, like, a little bit, people need to be held accountable for their actions. Like, if I have a few weeks that I'm sucking, I'm not getting to the quarterback, guess what? I'm going to get benched. Guess what I'm going to do, though?
Yes.
Someone else is going to play. Guess what I need to do? I need to fucking ball up, and I need to figure out a way. And I think there's too many ways out nowadays. Everybody's had so many options to be like, oh, this guy doesn't like me, I'm going to get out of here. Oh, they don't think I'm a good player, I'm going to get out of here. To me, that's all bullshit. I think that's the part of football that teaches you how to live life. Like, absolutely. Life, if you're in real life, and you keep jumping around all over the place, you're never going to be successful. At some point, you need to find a time and a place to go, you know what? It ain't working for me. What I'm doing is wrong. I need to get going. I need to push forward. I need to run through that wall. I need to find success. So that's a big thing for me is find success. Make shit happen yourself. So the sooner you figure that out, the better you'll be. Make that shit happen yourself.
This is the ultimate grunt game where guys like you and I can strive and make a career. I can't go play baseball or basketball. I can't go play fucking soccer. Like, this is the only thing that I can do from a sports perspective. Like, I don't know where they're going to put a 6'5", 320-pound fucking mongrel on the basketball court. I'm going to foul out quick. So this in a grunt game, I can work myself into anything, and I can overcome anything. Whether it's moving positions in the NFL or fucking getting hurt in college or whatever the case may be. The kids, I feel like there's some kids, like you said before we move on, there's some kids that think like we do still. And those are the ones that I really gravitate towards. It's like a magnet. And we have great relationships until they get to the NFL and after. And there's some kids that are so talented physically that they think they can just show up. And those are the kids that I try and push, and it's the magnets grow apart really fast. And usually, like you said, it's a mom or a dad. And like, for example, about 2 weeks ago, we had a kid who'd been in the program for a year. He got offered. He's about to like re-up for his senior year and move forward. This is a business. It's what it is. And coach, we're good. We're going to move forward. I'm sitting here sending him on recruiting trips and like talking him up to coaches. And the day before he's supposed to re-up, he quits, right? And he quits with no phone call, no email, nothing. Just, I'm not going to return anymore. Blocks me on all the social media platforms. Now, look, that's his choice. That's okay. That's a business decision that him and his parents made. My problem is now this kid thinks he's done something. So the one offer he has that he got when he was working his ass off, where I'm telling the coach, you should offer him. I stand behind his work ethic. He's not a free school guy. Well, now when they call back, and this is the rigorous nature of this game. If I'm his agent and he just fucked me, and they call me back and they're like, hey, we want to bring your guy in. We're going to give him a full scholarship. And I go, well, he doesn't work here anymore. He just quit abruptly. I don't really know how to get a hold of him anymore. Are they on the other end of the phone going to be like, well, shit, I can't wait to give this kid a scholarship? Or are they going to look at it and go, that's a red flag? Just like you said, there's red flags everywhere. And a lot of the time, it's parents. Like the parents can't sit back and allow a professional to do our fucking jobs. Like, why did you hire me to help you if you think you know more about this than I do? I'm not walking into your business and telling you how to put a crown on that tooth if you're a dentist. You know what I'm saying? So I know 100%.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? I think the quitting aspect, it's too readily available now, and it's not frowned upon. I remember my dad. Exactly. My dad, when I was playing high school ball, my dad coached me at Skyline High School. He was my coach up until my senior year. And in my household, quitting was never, even if I was getting fucked, even if the cards were against me, something was happening, my parents and my father would always be like, you know what? You've done it. Now you see it through. There's no quitting. That wasn't a choice. And it helped me throughout my career. I tell my athletes this all the time. I'll have some kids ask me, they say, so what was the best time of your career? What was the most important time of your career? And I tell them, anytime you play professional ball, there's always going to be a point where, whether it's the coaches, whether it's the organization, that they think that you're not good enough anymore. I think the best time in my whole entire career was when I left Wyoming, when I tried, because the NFL was my dream, right? Everybody's dream, who loves the sport, who wants it. Being told you're not good enough being told that I wasn't good enough was the best fucking thing for me that I've ever faced in my sport. Because guess what? I got released went to mini camp with the 49ers, got released quick, done. Football's done. Everybody's like, well, you're not good enough. You're done. I knew in my heart that I was good enough. I had family members that were like, well, it's time to maybe get a job. Time to move on. And the only person that believed in me was me. And I had my wife, and she was like, I know you're a good football player, but how long are you going to do this? And I would tell her, I said, babe, I got this. I know I'm good enough. And then I got invited to Canada. And guess what? They brought me in to be a body. That's how CFL is. They brought me in. They're like, you know what? This guy, he was good at Wyoming. Let's bring him in. Let's just see if he could fill a spot during camp. And you know what? Nobody believed in me except me. And I grinded and I busted my ass and I went up there and I started. I got Rookie of the Year up in the CFL that year because nobody believed in me except me. And the most satisfaction I've gotten out of my whole career is pulling myself out of that hole. And that's what needs to happen. Failure is a good thing. If you go through football thinking that failure is bad.
Ding. Did everyone hear that? Failure is a good thing. Fail as much as possible so you can learn how to do it.
Learn and pull yourself out. And after that, guess what? I walked out of that year going, you know what? I'm a bad motherfucker because everybody's counting me out. And now guess what? You're going to have to go up against me. And I'm hungry as fuck. And I'm going to kick some ass. And that's how I got through. That's how I made my name in the CFL. Because I'm like, you think that you're going up against a kid from Wyoming, everybody counted out? Guess what? I'm going to pound your head. And I'm going to get after it every single play. And people knew. After that season, they knew. And then it wasn't a joke anymore. I wasn't a joke. That's the best thing that could happen to athletes is be counted out. Just be counted out and find a way to get out of that hole. Find a way.
Man, brother, you're getting me ready to play. I'm over here sweating and shit. We're going to have to meet up on I-25 and bang some heads real quick. My man, Gabe Knapton, joining us here on Savage and Average. Remember, go to Different Breed. Check it out online, differentbreed.com.
Yep.
Differentbreed.com. Check them out on the social media platforms. If you're up north, I highly tell you to go check out Different Breed, and the recommendation could not come any higher from myself down to 6-0. So let's move on here, brother. Gabe, moving on to the local schools, CU and CSU. Before we talk about Wyoming, all three schools lost this weekend, but they lost in different ways. Colorado loses 45-17 to UCLA. Listen to this. Colorado has been outscored 183-47 the first 4 weeks of the season. CSU, on the other hand, got beat 41-10 by Sacramento State. They're 0-4 now. They've lost to Middle Tennessee State, who just beat Miami, and Sacramento State, who's a Big Sky school. On the other hand, I watched Wyoming walk into BYU with a pro set offense and take it to BYU for a whole half and run with them the whole game. And they were in a position to win the game at one point. BYU's probably got better skill players, and they pulled away at the end. But Wyoming and the way that they fight and how many Colorado kids are on that roster, I look at that and I go, why isn't Coach Bold the coach in Fort Collins or Boulder? Why is he still in Wyoming? And I know that you don't want to hear this, but I am beating the fucking table hard for Coach Bold to be in Boulder. I know he's older, but the way he does things and his staff and his recruiting, and they're hard to deal with in the recruiting department. That's how I know they're doing it right, where they're not just inviting every single fucking kid.
Yeah.
Where do you see these three programs going? Start with CU and CSU first.
I think I don't really know a lot of coaches from either program anymore. I have a few athletes up at CSU that I have trained before. I think it all, and I'm going to tell you this from a coach that is actually at Wyoming now, Marty English. He recruited me.
Oh yeah.
He's a big believer in you pull your best athletes out of Colorado, whether it's small schools out east or bigger schools down here along the I-25 corridor. But the thing is,
English is the one that pulled Muma out of the gym and said, that's the one. When I was just beating on CU's door like, this kid's a pro, recruit him. No, he's not big enough. English was like, I'll take him. Fuck, he's a good player.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's how Coach English has had great success by doing that. I mean, many of the guys that I've played with were NFL dudes. He recruited Mitch Unrein, who played for the Bears, the Broncos, Tampa Bay, one of my good friends. Wyoming took a chance on him. He comes down, he finds these kids from programs that maybe, actually, I'm going to say it straight up. He finds these kids from programs that Colorado has passed straight up on.
At 100%,
all the time.
bro. And that
CSU, CU.
State. Well, think about this too. When Marty was at CSU, when Marty was at CSU, they had their best run of keeping kids home. That's the Jesse Nadings, Joel Dreesens, the guys like that. That both of us know. And then the next generation afterwards, keeping guys home. So when English left CSU and ended up at Wyoming, it's not surprising that the pipeline of Denver kids, the developmental Denver kids that CU and CSU turn their nose up at, all go to Wyoming.
Yep.
I mean,
exactly.
And that's why look at Curtis Granderson, for God's sakes. I mean, fuck, man, that kid, that's a Denver kid. And he's a fucking stud in the NFL.
Exactly. People, I work with a bunch of people at the fire department that are from, they went to college at CU, they went to college at CSU, and they always ask me, they're like, so why does CU and CSU, why do they struggle so much? And I tell them right now, I say, listen, these programs, they're going to California, they're going to Texas, they're going all over the place looking for these guys that they think are going to change the program when they have guys in their backyard that want it and would proudly play for them. And they'll go there and they'll produce. The best years we've had at Wyoming are the percentage of Colorado kids that we had on that roster outweighed any other states. 100%. We were primarily Colorado recruits. My roommate that I lived with, Brian Hendricks, he was recruited by Wyoming, passed up, and then went up to Wyoming. Same with myself. CU never even spoke to me. I will say
that's
CSU.
What they do, dog.
Exactly. CSU with Sonny Lubick, I will say that they were trying to recruit me, but I went up to Wyoming because I was like, dang, there's a lot of Colorado kids on that roster. Tough Colorado kids that I know of. I was like, I'm going to go up to Wyoming. And that's the problem we're running into now. And that's why I think Wyoming's always been kind of, they've got that, the last few years, they might not win a ton of games. They might not be the top, but I tell you what, they're tough because they've got a lot of kids that are coming right up I-25, right to I-80, right to Laramie, and they're coming up there and playing ball. And then guess what? CSU, if you want to face Wyoming and you got a bunch of kids up there that you did not recruit, good luck, buddy.
Fuck yeah,
it's personal. Good luck.
Fucking personal.
Good luck.
When you're from Colorado, for example, CU didn't offer Travis Jones's kid Connor, who's a fucking Michigan full scholarship recruit. They didn't even talk to him or offer him, and he's in my gym. So I mean, I've got a fucking a docket of kids that are all over the country, from Trey Zune, who's the starting left tackle at A&M, to Cole Taylor, the starting tight end at LSU, to the starting guard and center, Drake Nugent and Bear Miller at Stanford, to Michigan State, to Notre Dame, to Nebraska and Tennessee, and all these other fucking schools, Michigan. And all these kids should be in Boulder or should be in Fort Collins. Definitely in Boulder if they're Power 5 material. Don't let them leave. So Look, full circle here. I love the way Wyoming does things because I see them line up in pro set and hammer people. They do things right. That's why so many Wyoming guys go to the NFL. That's one thing that everyone needs to understand is like this spread system in college football and like all that shit, that's sexy and it'll score your points. But Josh Allen played under center at Wyoming and learned a ton. You know what I'm saying? Like Muma played in a pro-style defense right next to Logan Wilson, who played in a pro-style defense. Both of them are outstanding linebackers. Granderson, all these other Gentry, all these other cats around the NFL that are Wyoming kids, they all played in a pro system. So if you take a guy like Bull, which I'm surprised Nebraska, him being tied into them the way he was, being there with the black shirts, I'm surprised he hasn't had his name brought up for that job too. Just because he's a little older. And let me ask you this question. I think that like the older cats, the older coaches, football and coaching is like the only job these days where they're not getting ageism against them. Where it's not like, oh, he's too old to do the job. Yeah, Coach Bull, how old is Coach Bull? And he's in his 60s, right?
Yeah, he's in his 60s.
Do you think that he has enough in the tank to go to a Lincoln or go to a Boulder? Not saying it's going to happen.
Of course.
Coach.
Of course. That guy's...
If he were there, he'd kill it.
Exactly. And that, it blows my mind. And I love it because I want him to stay in Laramie as long as he possibly can. He's a great coach. He's doing the right thing up there. They fall off. Of course, they lost to Josh Allen. They've lost some of their key players. But I tell you what, if he sticks in Wyoming, he's got a young team right now. He's got a real young team.
They're going to win the Mountain Division, bro. They're
eventually. Exactly. And everybody counted us out. You know what? Against Air Force, everybody was like, and I'm not going to lie. I'm going to tell you straight. When we went to play Air Force, I was like, you know what? This is going to be a hell of a game. Air Force is damn good. They just came off a big win from CU.
Well, 31 points beat now.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm like, they're dominating. But I tweeted it right after it. Everybody was like, yeah, Wyoming. I'll tell you that one of the big reasons that Wyoming beat Air Force is Marty English. Marty English knows how to play that defense, or he knows how to coach that defense for that specific offense. I played in his in that defense before against Air Force. And I tell you what, he knows how to do it. I racked up 18 tackles against Air Force when I was playing middle linebacker. He knows how to coach that, and he does it well. And those boys, same thing. We're going down to Colorado. Let's gear up. Let's buck up. I cannot wait for that CSU football game.
Oh,
Saddle up, baby. It's going to be
an absolute border war, as it's called. All right, so CU goes to Arizona on Saturday night. Who does Wyoming have this week?
I think they have San Jose State, I want to say.
That's a W. San Jose State, that's a W.
I'm pretty sure it is. I don't know.
Correct me if I'm wrong. CSU, they're coming off of a bye week at 0-4, and they've got to figure it out as well. Look, CU, CSU, Air Force, Wyoming, the hotbed of recruiting is right in your backyard. Please, please, please stop turning your back to it. And look, Air Force and Wyoming, if CU and CSU are going to turn their back, take those players real quick. All right, Gabe, let's move on here. Saturday and Sunday games last week were fucking crazy. In college football, you had Middle Tennessee going to Miami and putting the beat down on the U at the $10 million coach, losing to Middle Tennessee State. Wake Forest lost in overtime to Clemson. A&M beat Arkansas in a really tight one. Texas Tech beat Texas. Kansas State went on the road to beat Oklahoma. SC squeaked out of Corvallis with a victory, and the refs helped them a ton. Michigan State, which I love seeing, got hammered by Minnesota. The parity in college football, man, do you think it's Georgia and everybody else, or are there some of these other teams that are going to be able to compete with the Dogs later in the season?
You know, Georgia's a damn good football team. They've got that thing rolling. To me, Georgia's kind of the new Alabama right now. They're rolling. They're kicking some butt. I
heard my boy Joel Platt yesterday. I was talking to Joel, and he's like, yeah, the top three teams in the country are Georgia, Ohio State, and Georgia's backups.
Exactly. So I really don't know. I see Georgia running it this year. I mean, which I love to see. We've had that so many years of Bama, being just the powerhouse. Nobody could stand up with them. And I think what we're seeing now is Georgia's becoming that. that powerhouse. And I like to see it. College football, love college football. But honestly, I think Georgia is going to run the whole thing.
What about the as we talk about, the parity all over college football? Oklahoma and Texas both lose. They lose to Kansas State and Texas Tech, two teams that aren't going to the SEC. How do you feel about the conference realignment? I'm old school, just like you. I hate it. I don't like the Plus being in the Pac-12, so on and so forth. The conference realignment stuff hasn't really touched the Mountain West the same way as it has the Power 5 conferences. Although I'd rather the Power 5 conferences, like I love what the Big 12 did, elevating 4 schools, bringing in UCF and Cincinnati and BYU and Houston rather than keeping them in Conference USA or independent. They elevate 4. Do you see teams being elevated or just teams just leaving conferences? Is the Pac-12 dead?
In a way, a little bit. Like, I like seeing the elevation. I think there's a lot of good college football. There's a lot of good teams. It's hard to place them all in different groups, right? So I'm not a big fan of it being independent. I think everybody should be within somewhere. You know what I mean? For a chance to compete. There's a lot of good teams out there, and to be independent and just be in different conferences and all that, I don't know. It's working out good. But again, Georgia's running it right now. I don't know where these other teams are going to lie right now.
Yeah, I don't think anybody can really stand up to Georgia in a 4-quarter fight based on what I've seen at the beginning of the season, to say the least. All right, getting into the National Football League. The NFL has been – the first 3 weeks has looked like the preseason to me. Okay, it's sloppy. Guys didn't play a lot, and you can tell – it's not, I don't agree with that philosophy at all. I think it's fucking ridiculous that they're not, playing in the preseason when the time is allotted for them.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
I'm getting you started. I'm cranking up this fucking engine, and I think it's ridiculous. I think it's fucking ridiculous that the first month of the season now is looked at as a preseason. That's not. I thought every one of these games were supposed to count. That's how I was taught in my life. Like every single minute of a regular season game fucking counts. Don't you hate that going down this road? The NFL's fucking this up.
You know what? I know what it's like to be a vet. I know what it's like to be a vet in a league where you're like, this is preseason, but I also know what it's like to get those reps, to get game reps, to where I know I'm like, you know what? We play next week. I don't want to go into this game not having some full speed reps. So it's needed. You need to play. You need to get those reps in. And that's what we're seeing right now.
I need callus.
Exactly. You need to get that pop. You need to get that full speed, get after it, and, get those live reps in. Because then if not, you're going to enter week 1, week 2, and you're just starting. You're just starting. You're not getting that pop in. You're not getting after it. You're not getting that timing, all that good stuff that you need to perform at your best. You're not getting it. So if you hold them out and you're sitting there going, well, we're going to save them, you're going to get off to a slow start. It's going to be week 4 or 5 before you get clicking. So why not get those extra 2 games? At least 1 game. You got to get them in and get them live reps. Get after it. Let those wide receivers, quarterback get their timing. Let that defense get their groove and get rolling. Then it's going to set you up for the rest of your games. But if you wait and you go through camp and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, we're week 1. There you go. Go get it. You're going to see a lot of hiccups. You're going to see a lot of mistakes. You're going to see a lot of games where it's going to be very low-scoring games. Exactly.
Exactly. Fucking Broncos.
Exactly. That's 100%.
Last week's banter was brought to you by our good friends at Colorado Center for Functional Medicine. Make sure you go check them out at CCFM on Twitter. They do a great job of supporting the show and the athletes down at 6-0. Their protein's outstanding, and I'm pumping it on a daily after my workout. So check out Colorado Center for Functional Medicine. They can do all your blood paneling and everything else. Big thanks to them for all that they do as we move into this week. Gabe, did you see all the different like bust or blow ups on the sideline this week, from Mahomes and Eric Bieniemy yelling at each other at halftime to Quinn Williams yelling at his defensive line coach because he's being held accountable, acting like a bitch, and then Ken Dorsey freaking out on his office supplies over not being able to get a playoff at the end of the half or the end of the game. People like on social media and around the country that don't understand this shit and just look at football like it's entertainment are like taken back by it. Like, oh my God, alpha males in the high tense situations are going to yell at each other. Ooh. And I'm looking at this like that's team building. This is how we get better. I mean, I can't tell you how many fucking drop down like war arguments I've had in my gym alone with players. Like, you need to do it like this, especially older ones. Like I've argued with pros to the point where we're almost fighting each other because I don't want them to come in and just act like an entitled pro. So when you're the Mahomes and EB thing, I played for EB for a long time. EB's just fiery. He's going to tell you what he thinks. That's a blowover. The Quinn Williams thing and him getting in his coach's face, that looked a little personal to me on the Jets sideline. And I'm a huge Jet fan as I played for them, but Quinn Williams is a guy who's ultra talented that doesn't do his job. He reminds me a lot of Deron Payne, another Alabama 3 technique for Washington, who is very talented but refuses to do his job. And if you remember, Payne last year had a huge blow up with Reed, another defensive lineman from Alabama, who was on Washington's roster in a game. They were almost fighting each other because Payne wouldn't do his fucking job. Now he got Quentin Williams almost fighting the defensive line coach. And I bet you all he said was, this is your fucking gap and you can't be out of your gap. You've got to hold your fucking ground. And Quentin blew up on him. Put yourself in both. You're the player and the coach. Who's right?
Who's right? Well, if I'm out of my fucking gap, then I'm obviously, if I'm the player, I'm wrong. I'm wrong.
So you probably shouldn't yell at his coach, huh?
Exactly. Well, you know what? I say exactly because, you know, he was wrong. Coach is coaching him up. There's a lot of fire. You know this, and I know this. There's a lot of fire in football. There's a lot of, you know what? You're in an intense situation. People don't understand this. People that look from the outside in, they don't understand the amount of work and dedication that is put in for games. So when you're a good player and you fuck up and you're in the wrong gap and you're getting bitched at, I was the type of player that if I saw it and I go, I was in the wrong gap, you know what? I gotta fix it. I gotta fix it. My bad. I was trying to do something. I'll fix it. But I'm not going to blame the player completely because you're fired up. You're in the battle. You're in the Coliseum, baby. Like you're getting after it. You're trying to make plays. But if you fuck up, you got to own it. And you got to, there's plays and there's instances where maybe you think you did the right thing where you came off, but if you're out of your gap and you're playing outside of the defense, you got to own it. You got to just own it up and go, you know what? Sorry. But I love seeing the fire. I love seeing, just like you said, a lot of people on social media are like, oh God, you know what? It's a battle down there. Coaches are intense. Players are intense. You're going to get intense conflict. That's what happens. And sometimes it's good. You know that guy is pissed off. You know he knows he messed up, and the tensions are high. It's NFL football, a lot of money on the line. Like these guys,
I used to play better when the coach used to fuck with me a little bit. Like when Coach Wilson would walk up to me at CU, or Coach Herm would walk up to me with the Jets, or Coach Sperano with the Dolphins, whoever it was, and be like, "You're not performing. You're not doing a very good." Like they knew how to twist my fucking gears to the point where I'd be like, "Man, fuck this. I'm pissed off now." Like now you just pissed me off.
Perfect.
If I gotta get you pissed off to dominate, that's what I'm gonna do.
Exactly. I would love when a coach came up to me and be like, you know, whenever you're out there, you're like, you know what? I'm feeling pretty good. I feel good. I feel like I'm playing good. But then all of a sudden, a coach comes up and goes, "Hey, Matt, what's the deal, man? What's going on today?
Do anything today?"
And then they walk off. And you're like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Good.
All right, and then you're like, "I'm gonna show this motherfucker what's up." And then you go out there. That's perfect for what we do now because I think a lot of kids now they get that and they just go, "Oh, I'm playing like shit." I'm done.
And
It's
so
going to be a
glad
bad
you brought
game.
that full circle. I think one of the main points now with a lot of this confrontation, acting like it didn't happen back in the day, that's not true either. There were constant arguments. There was just no social media. There were constant fist fights, arguments. I watched Darrelle Revis knock out a coach in the fucking locker room once. There's just no social media at that point, so I'm not recording everything, and neither is the media.
Exactly.
Now, I think especially like I'm going to use the two of us, we're old school. We're cut from a different generation of football where there's no concussion tests, and like I'm leading with my helmet, and I'm trying to be mean, and it is what it is. Like I'm not exchanging jerseys after the game. I'm more apt to tell somebody to go fuck themselves. I'll see you after the game. Shit like that. With how nice it is these days, well, the coaches are all old school. This defensive line coach for the Jets, guarantee you, he played back in the day. So he has a standard that he thinks has to be met. And if a new school player that's ultra talented, I look at some of these, the new guys in the NFL, the new era of the athlete where they're big and long and really fast. If they played in an older generation of the NFL, I don't know if they'd be as successful because I don't think they can handle the fucking trauma and the just blunt force and people coming after you every play. We're not throwing the ball 60 times a game. We're running it 50 times a game at you now. So I think that there's a break between the old school generation of football and the way it used to be done and this new school, like we're moving to the Broncos here now in the NFL, but the Nathaniel Hackett way of doing things where we're not going to do fucking anything apparently because we might get hurt. So personally, I think that that's one of the main things here. These two different dichotomies are clashing. And unfortunately, I think the soft side is going to win over the hardcore side here just because of the way the NFL is trending.
Yep, and I agree. I tell people this all the time. They're like, what would you do if you were an NFL coach or coordinator? I said this. I said the way the NFL football is trending is you got a bunch of passing. The NFL is a passing league. Pass pro. You've got a lot of leaner type athletes that are maybe playing like middle linebacker. You don't see the Urlacher, the Ray Lewis anymore. It's like the big, run stopping machine.
You don't see an Al Wilson playing middle linebacker anymore.
Exactly. I tell him, I say, if I was an NFL coach, guess what I'd do? If I had the money, I would build a whole team around Power I. And I would do pulling guards. And I would just pound the fuck out of the football every single play. And if nobody knew about it, they would have a big problem for a while.
Look at Baltimore and Tennessee. Look at Baltimore and Tennessee. They're both built around run game. And they're always in the playoffs. And like they haven't won a Super Bowl yet, so it hasn't worked in the playoffs, quote unquote. But that said, if you look at like the 49ers when they went on their run, the majority of these teams that get to the Super Bowl run the fuck out of the ball in the playoffs. Like the game changes when the temperature drops.
Let's make fullback great again. Let's make the fullback position great again, where you got one guy leading up the fucking A and B gap, just knocking people's heads off, and the running back following. You got pulling guards. Let's do it.
Who's the best fullback of all time?
Best fullback of all time?
Blocking and running. I think Allstott's the best runner ever.
I was just going to say.
I think Lorenzo Neal's the best blocker ever.
Yeah, that's true. Also, I love Allstott. That's like one of my favorite players right there.
Man!
You just hand him the ball. And what blows my mind nowadays is you got, even if it's early in the game, you got a fourth down and you've got half a yard. Or you got a yard. Yeah. And they throw it or they punt it. You should be able to get that fucking yard. Yep. And that shows you the direction NFL's trending. If they don't think they can. Or they wait until late in the game and they're like, well, we got to get it. It's our last chance. Anytime you got 2 yards, 2 yards, you should be able to hand that ball off and get those yards. Pound that ball.
Hey, man, if you can't get a yard on the goal line or in the middle of the field or even backed up to keep the game going in your direction, you don't deserve to fucking win. All right, so let's talk about deserving to win here. This next segment, our Bronco Talk, is brought to you by our good friends at Rico's Burritos. Make sure you go check them out. I'm eating them every morning down at the gym. They are fantastic. Thank you to Rico Burritos for all that they do. So the Broncos win 11-10. That's right, 11-10 on Sunday Night Football. I'm not going to get into the little intricacies offensively of the game. It was ugly. I'm going to focus first on the fact that I think we watched the best two defenses in football play against each other on Sunday Night Football. The Broncos defense is elite. They've got elite players on every level. The linebackers are good. I'm going to count Gregory and Chubb as defensive linemen right now and just say that the defensive line and the secondary are elite and the linebackers are pretty good. Josie Jewell, if he can stay healthy, I think is an all-pro type player, but again, stay healthy. San Francisco, they struggled with Denver's defense immensely. Denver's offense struggled with San Francisco's defense immensely. Bosa was eating. I think the Broncos are in real trouble going to Vegas this weekend for the simple fact that Vegas is 0-3 and have lost 3 games by 1 score, and this is a must-win for them. I am looking at this, and I wanted to get your opinion on this. I think that Nathaniel Hackett is coaching the Denver Russell Wilsons instead of coaching the Denver Broncos. And the first 3 weeks of the season, I think it's been, we've got Russell Wilson, so we're going to try and do all this new shit that Russ wants to do, as opposed to running the ball and setting him up for play action shots and all the things that's made him who he is up to this point. So until Hackett decides to actually coach the Denver Broncos instead of coaching the Denver Wilsons, we're fucked. The Broncos are totally fucked. So let me get your opinion on that, because I really think that this offense is in for more struggle on Sunday. Number one, how is Cam Fleming going to block Max Crosby?
Max Crosby's a beast. He's a beast. That dude does it. But just like we just talked about before, within the running game of the NFL, we've got to establish a run game. We've got to base it off of that. That's going to open up Russell Wilson's game. That's what he's going to be used to. If we can establish a good run game, just like any team, if you can pound that ball and get some yards, you might not break out for 30-yard runs, but you pound it. You get 3 here, maybe 5, 6. You know what I mean? We just keep pounding that ball. That's going to open up the rest of the game. On the defensive side, I just got to say, I love the Broncos defense. I think they're playing great good ball. I got a shout out to a former CFL guy that I do know, Alex Singleton, playing on the Broncos now. He didn't have much of an impact on defense that last game, but a special teams machine.
He's their best special teams player by far.
He's got a nose for the ball. I played against him in Calgary, and I'll tell you what, he was a 1 or 2 year starter at Philadelphia, and that guy has a knack for the ball. He'll get to the ball.
He balled out for Philly last year. It got him a big contract with the Broncos. I know it's only a 1-year deal, but it's about $7 million, so he'll take that. Trust me.
Exactly, and I love the dude. I know where he comes from. I've seen him play. Like I said, he was with Calgary, and that guy he gets after it. Sideline to sideline player. He makes plays. Another guy that I do know that's a run-stopping machine, Big Mike Purcell. He's in the middle there.
Another kid that went to High School, right
exactly.
next door to my house, who played at Wyoming, that CU and CSU let out of the state. God damn it!
Exactly. And Big Mikey is one of my good friends, and I watch him every time the Broncos play, and I go, God, that guy he eats up blocks. And you know what? If he's going to get on a pass rush, he'll get to that quarterback.
And look, I want to give Mike Purcell a little bit of love here. Mike signed a huge deal 2 years ago under Vic Fangio. A big deal for a nose tackle, right? And then this year, the new regime came in, and they put him in the 2s and told him he was a rotation player, and then cut him after camp so he didn't get his contract money. And did Mike bitch or moan or fucking, I don't want to do it anymore. I want to go somewhere else where they like me. No. He re-signed with Denver for a team-friendly deal and said, I'm going to fucking prove it.
And he's been proving it.
Fuck yeah. He got credit for the safety the other night. He was the player pushing Garoppolo out of bounds. Purcell is by far their best run stuffer. He's going to be starting at nose tackle by the end of the year because the interior linemen, you got to rotate 3 or 4 of them. All 4 of those guys are starters. I mean, it's not like you're not going to play a nose tackle fucking 90 snaps. This isn't the Buffalo Miami. So I just wanted to give him a little bit of love.
Exactly. He's a baller. Those guys, I tell you what, I love the defense. It's hard for me to say, but I do enjoy. Of course, I'd love to see the Broncos, driving the ball, Russell Wilson doing his thing, scoring touchdowns. But you got to just hang your – exactly. I love the defensive part of the game. And those guys, I've been in those games before where they're sitting there. I guarantee you on the sidelines, they were sitting there going, we know what time it is. We got to go out. We got to get another stop. And then guess what? Offense is going to go out there. They're going to get 4 and out. Let's go out and get another stop. Let's put this game on the defense. And they did their job. They did good. They did great. Look, they did great.
All that matters is the W. So they're 2-1 and they're sitting in first place in the West. The Kansas City's 2-1. They lost at the Colts. The Chargers are beat shit. They got ran by Jacksonville 38-10. And the Raiders are winless, and they've lost all their games by a score. They're going to be really fucking hungry on Sunday. I will say this. Look, I love a good defensive game, too, after playing defense my whole life. But then after moving to offense in the league and playing there for 4 years, I can't watch incompetent offensive football and sit here and be able to keep myself cool. I look at every position, and I don't know if it's just being old now, but the same way coaches could see everything back in the day, and I'd be like, how the fuck can you see every position? Well, now I can do that the same way you can. And I look at it and I'm like, okay, that guy fucked up. This guy fucked up. And I feel like it's easy to fix if everyone's focused on the team. And I go back to this again. I feel like Hackett and his staff are so concerned with trying to keep Russell Wilson happy and trying to keep Russell Wilson after the fucking Houston game when Hackett came out and said, well, we're going to do whatever Russ wants to do. What? We're going to do whatever Russ wants to do? He should be the fucking coach then. What do you mean we're going to do whatever he wants to do? Can I come into the office and sit down and be like, look, I think we should do the fucking fumble Rooski. I'm the right guard. Drop that bitch on the ground so I can pick it up and go score. That's what I want to do. What the fuck? I mean, have you ever seen this? Look, I've been in locker rooms with Brett Favre and fucking Peyton Manning, played against Tom Brady, and I guarantee you played for Josh McDaniels, guarantee none of those coaches ever walked up to them and said, this week in the game plan, we're going to do what you want to do. And I include that to Peyton Manning. I 100% include that to Peyton Manning for the simple fact that I watched Peyton acclimate to Gary Kubiak. I watched him acclimate to Jim Caldwell. I watched him acclimate to Tony Dungy. Yes, they did some of the things the elite quarterbacks wanted to do. They're not doing what they want to do, though, from a game plan perspective. That's on the coach. That's why he's there.
Exactly. You can't go through a game or go into a game plan going, we're just going to do whatever you want to do. We got to do what's best for the team to get that win. No matter what, the whole time. So if you're finding cracks in the defense you're facing, you've got to figure out how to attack them there. You can't say, well, we're going to do something that's going to make Russ comfortable and make him play his game. If you do the right thing by attacking those cracks, it's going to open up the game for Russ. And you've got to do that every single play. Football is a team sport. You know that, and that's just preaching to the choir. Anybody that knows it, you can't base everything off of that one guy that you have.
There's never been one guy. I've never seen one guy walk in and save 10 scrubs. Never. I've seen like 8 really good players save 3 scrubs, though. You know what I'm saying? But I've never seen one walk in and save everybody.
No, exactly. So you got to attack them where they're the weakest. So if they're having trouble with outside zone or if they're having trouble with quick passes, you got to attack them there. You can't just start the game by going, you know what, we're going to do whatever Russ is comfortable with. There's other guys. There's other playmakers on that team. Big time playmakers.
I mean, what happens if Russ goes down, God forbid, and your entire fucking philosophy is built around just what he does?
See a Broncos season. That's what happens right there. So exactly. Peace out. You gotta figure it out. You gotta come up with a game plan that's gonna utilize everybody. That's what when you do that, like we were talking about before, when you open up the run game, that's gonna open up Russ's game. when you're hitting different wide receivers, when you're stretching the ball throughout the field, when you're utilizing different aspects of your playbook, that's what opens up. That's what wins games. If you're one-dimensional and you're focusing on Russ, peace out, just like you said.
So, okay, how do you think the Broncos, before we get you out of here on that Savage and Average, the great Gabe Knapton joining us here. Make sure you check out Different Breed. Thank you so much for coming on the show, brother. Last thing, Raiders, Sunday, 226 in Vegas. Last year when they went to Vegas, they got ran. The year before they went to Vegas, they got ran. The Raiders are 0-3. The Broncos sitting at 2-1. But, I mean, the Broncos defense is elite. The Broncos offense is not. The Raiders are midline on both, trying to figure it out. Where do you see this game going?
I think I love the, like I said, I'm gonna go for the Broncos just because I'm Colorado dude. I have some boys that are playing on there. I think Broncos win this game 17-10.
Ooh, another ugly one, but I'll take it. Good defense.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I see happening until prove me wrong. Prove me wrong and open up that playbook and then let's throw some points up on the board. But that's where I see this game going. Raiders are solid. They've got a good defense. Max Crosby on the edge is one of the best in the league. Guy could get after the quarterback. That O-line's going to have to really bow up and protect Russ. But I see it 17-10.
I like it. 17-10 Bronco victory. That is Gabe Knapton. I am Matt McChesney. This is Savage and Average. Gabe, thank you so much for coming on the show, bro. Just tell everybody how they can get a hold of you and how they can check out Different Breed up there.
Yeah, so I'm on all social media. Facebook, Different Breed Performance. For Twitter and Instagram, it's just at Gabe Knapton. You'll find me.
Hey, are you on TikTok?
Like I said, no, I'm not on TikTok yet.
Dog, you got to get on the TikTok.
I know. I told you. Like I said before, I'm a fireman. I work for Thornton Fire Department. I'm doing this Different Breed Performance. I've been going for about 3 years. I'm not the best social media guy, but I'm working on it. I'm going to have to get with Matt here to set me straight with this stuff. But, I'm working on it. But just follow me. If you're in the North area, I'll help you out as much as I can. My goal is to help the youth. Like I said before, though, if you work for me, I'll work for you. The harder you work for me, the harder I'll work for you. If you're soft and you don't know about it and you don't know if this is quite for you, chances are this place is not for you. So get in here. If you want to learn toughness, mental toughness, and get better, come see me.
Yep, Different Breed is on that fucking up and up, just like 6-0. Both of us trying to change the state of Colorado and the way that things are looked at. Gabe, thank you so much, brother. Have a great weekend and keep doing you, bro. Yeah.
Hey, I really appreciate it, guys, and love what you're doing down there. And I'll stay in touch. Let's get something going together, and we'll get rocking.
Yeah, this off season, we got to get a north-south competition going or big man camp or something. We'll get on the horn and put something together. 100%,
for sure. 100%. Let me know, man. I'm here all the time. All right, see you, man.
Peace. That is Gabe Knapton joining us here on Savage and Average. Before we wrap up today's show, I just wanted to talk to everybody a little bit about the college football games coming up this weekend. And from a betting perspective, okay, I think that, there's a lot of folks that are pissed off at college football because it's really hard to bet on. Like, it's hard. And I am one of those folks. The NFL, in my opinion, is much easier to place a bet on. And I'm on FanDuel and I'll give everybody a little bit of advice each and every week here moving forward as we talk about the bets and whatnot. So let's go right into it. The games this weekend in college football are nuts. You've got number 15, Washington, going to UCLA. Both teams are undefeated. The Rose Bowl has had awful attendance all year, although it's going to fill up for Washington, UCLA, both teams being undefeated. UCLA put 45 points on Colorado last week. Washington beat the hell out of Stanford after beating the hell out of Michigan State. I'm going to take Washington on the road in this game. I love their quarterback, Penix Jr. is a Heisman type player for me this year. He's really, really special. And I just think UCLA is soft as butter and warm butter, no less. And I can't I can't get with them. There's going to be more Washington fans at the Rose Bowl than there will be Bruin fans. So I'm going to take Washington on the road in that one. Number 18, Oklahoma, coming off their loss to Kansas State, goes to undefeated TCU at 3-0. Coach Dykes has TCU rolling. He just beat the team that he coached last year at SMU last week. TCU SMU is a huge rivalry. Hopefully SMU can get into the Big 12 one of these days as well. Oklahoma going to TCU, going to Fort Worth is a tough game for Oklahoma coming off a loss to Kansas State at home, but it's a must win. And I think that the Oklahoma guys, the team I saw go to Lincoln and fucking murder Nebraska, I think you're going to see that team again at TCU. I'm going to take Oklahoma on the road in that one as well against an undefeated TCU team. I'm not talking about points and shit either. I'm talking outright, just straight bet. Purdue is at Minnesota. I think number 21, Minnesota, is the biggest sleeper in the country right now for the college football playoff. They play in the Western Division of the Big Ten. If they can figure out a way to be 11-1, 12-0, they don't have to play Michigan. They don't have to play Ohio State until they get to the Big Ten title game. And the way that they play is conducive to winning one game. And they play great defense. They play downhill offense, and they're fucking ferocious and nasty. And they've got a 6-year quarterback who's seen everything. They're rowing that fucking boat up there with the Gophers. So I would love to see Minnesota win the Big Ten. That would be pretty cool to see an up-and-coming team get into the playoff and not just one of the blue bloods, although trying to beat Michigan and Ohio State at the end of the year is going to be a fucking feat. Illinois goes to Wisconsin. I only put this up there because Brett Bielema and Coach Walters, the defensive coordinator at Illinois, I played with Coach Walters at SCU back in the day, and they've got that ship righted. Illinois is playing good football again. Wisconsin's coming off of a fucking beatdown at Ohio State. They're going to get right in this game, although I'm going to take Illinois on the road in this one. Bielema going back to Wisconsin, that's going to be enough motivation for them to play. And that Illinois defense is pretty fucking good, and Wisconsin's pretty one-dimensional. Texas Tech goes to Kansas State. Now, both these teams had two of the biggest wins of the week last week. Texas Tech beating Texas at home, and then Kansas State going on the road and embarrassing Oklahoma with Martinez having 4 rushing touchdowns in that game and looking like the best player on the field, hands down. This is a pick'em game, man. Kansas State in Manhattan. The last time they went out, they lost to Tulane 17-10. I know that Coach Kleiman and Coach Riley and Coach White Coach White didn't like that, and they're going to get him right. Coach Klein is going to have his quarterback playing right on Saturday like they did when they went to Oklahoma. Texas Tech is a really good team. They beat Texas last week at home. Last time they went on the road to NC State, they got their ass kicked a little bit. So both of these teams have something to overcome. One team lost at home to a team they were supposed to beat. One team went on the road, didn't play well. That's what they're going to build these 2 weeks off of. I'm going to take Kansas State at home in this game. I know how hard it is to go to Manhattan and win. That place they fill it up, and they're loud, and they give a shit. So I'll take Kansas State in that one. Number 4, Michigan goes to Iowa. On paper, this game looks like Michigan's going to run away with it because the novice will just look at the points Iowa scored. But Iowa's defense is maybe the best defense in the country. They are elite. Their safety as a pick in all 3 or every game they played this year, especially the last 3. They get after the passer. They are great up front. And they have the kind of defense that can win a game by itself. So that said, Michigan going to Iowa, I'm going to take Michigan. They're the 4th-ranked team in the country. But I did watch Michigan struggle a little bit with Maryland last week. Everybody's going to be up to play Michigan this year. Michigan last year was becoming Michigan again. This year, they're Michigan. They're go blue. They're big blue. They're ready. And everybody's going to look at them as that's our measuring stick. Can we beat this team? Iowa has beaten a lot of top 5, top 10 teams in Iowa City in the past. Coach Prince is known for doing this, so we'll see what happens there. But I'm going to take Michigan over Iowa in Iowa City. Kentucky goes to Ole Miss. This is a huge game, East against West in the SEC. I love Kentucky. I think they're a really good football team. I'm not a huge fan of Lane Kiffin, just for historical reasons. I'm going to take Kentucky on the road against Ole Miss here. Oregon State goes to Utah. Last year, this was an absolute barn burner up in Corvallis that Oregon State ended up beating Utah, and then Utah ended up winning the Pac-12 and going to the Rose Bowl. I don't see Utah losing at home in Salt Lake City to Oregon State this year. I think Utah will take care of business against a really, really good, scrappy Beavers team that probably is going to win 9-10 games this year, but they're not going to go on the road and beat the 12th ranked Utah team, who is fighting for their playoff lives as well each and every week, as they lost the opener to Florida. One of the best games of the week are the next two. Number 9 Oklahoma State goes to number 16 Baylor. That's top 20 matchup. Oklahoma State is fantastic. They've been in the top 10 now for it seems like years, but they're always up there. Coach Gundy has his alma mater rolling. Baylor, the defending Big 12 champions, the huge win last week against Iowa State at Iowa State up in Ames. This is also a pick'em type game. I think the money is pretty much even on FanDuel and the betting apps. But Oklahoma State, I'm going to take the Cowboys on the road in Waco. This is a rematch of the Big 12 title game last year, where Oklahoma State was literally 6 inches away from winning that game. Baylor doesn't have the same team, but Oklahoma State's returning damn near everybody. And I think Oklahoma State's the class of the Big 12, although the Big 12 is super deep. Point in case, Colorado, please go back to the Big 12. Utah, CU, Arizona State, let's kick rocks and get the fuck out of California and go back to where football matters, please. Number 22, Wake, off of their 3 overtime loss to Clemson, goes to number 23, Florida State. It's good to see Florida State back in the top 25. Coach Norvell has them rolling. Look, Hartman, Sam Hartman is the quarterback for Wake Forest, and he's a fucking dude. He's a first-round draft pick, just like Will Levis of Kentucky. He had 5 touchdown passes last week. I think he's going to go to Florida State. Florida State's back in the top 25 for only a week, unfortunately. I think Wake Forest is veteran enough, and they've been in this position where they're not going to be intimidated by going to Tallahassee. I played there in college. That place is fucking legit. It is hot as balls, and they are loud, and they defend their home field like very few. And Coach Norvell's got them back playing hard. I wouldn't be surprised if Florida State wins, but I'm going to take Wake Forest on the road just based on the quarterback play, with Hartman being a much better quarterback than Florida State can trot out there with their quarterback being hurt. Number 2, Alabama goes number 20, Arkansas. Another ranked matchup. Alabama got away with one earlier this year in Texas, where I thought that they lost the game, and the refs essentially said that they didn't. Arkansas coming off of a heartbreaking loss to Texas A&M last week, where the ball ricocheted off the upper end zone fucking field goal thing. Yeah, that's the CTE right there kicking in. But they missed the field goal at the end of the game to tie it. They lose 23-20 in the Southwest Classic to Texas A&M. Big win for A&M, a huge loss for Arkansas because they've got to play Bama this week. So if you're an Arkansas fan, you were hoping to go 1-1 in those games and beat A&M, but you lost that game. So this makes it a must-win with number 2, Alabama, coming in to Arkansas. Look, I would love Arkansas to win this game. I can't pick them. I can't do it. I like Pittman. I want Pig to win, but Alabama's got the defending Heisman Trophy winner, and they're loaded, and the refs are not going to let them lose. I hate to say this, but the fucking refs are on Alabama's team pretty much everywhere they go. So I'll take Alabama when they go to Arkansas. I only bring up this next game because fucking Kansas is 4-0, but Iowa State goes to KU, 4-0 Kansas. Coach Leopold has them rolling, and they're not just beating FCS schools either. Kansas is beating up on ranked Houston and West Virginia on the road. And, they got another win last week at home to make them 4-0. So that's huge. Looks like KU is going to go bowling this year. Iowa State and Coach Campbell coming into Lawrence. It's a huge game for Kansas. They're going to go out and play hard. Daniels is a hell of a player, and I'm going to roll with KU here. I think Rock Chalk goes to 5-0, and Coach Campbell at Iowa State, the more that he loses there this year in their rebuild year, the more he's going to be looking at other jobs, i.e. Lincoln, Nebraska, a little bit harder, as I think it's a lot easier to reload in Lincoln than it is in Ames, as he's finding out. Texas A&M goes to Mississippi State. I'm going to take the Aggies in this one, just for a little home cooking with the left tackle for Texas A&M. Trey Zoom playing at such a high level. He was outstanding last week against Arkansas, just absolute lockdown on the left side of that offensive line. Only a redshirt freshman from Fort Collins that should be playing left tackle in Boulder right now, but He's playing for the Aggies, and he's setting himself up to get a big fucking bag down the road. So I'm going to roll with Texas A&M, Trey Zoom, going to Starksville to play Mississippi State. And lastly, NC State at Clemson, number 5 Clemson. NC State is a really, really good football team. And I look, going to Death Valley is really hard. It's hard to win at Death Valley, Clemson. DJ Alphabet, however you say his last fucking name, the quarterback for Clemson last week, had another 5 touchdowns in that game. That game was nuts. The Wake Forest Clemson game was crazy. NC State has that kind of offensive personnel. They have the kind of people that can line up and play, and their defense is much better than Wake Forest. This is going to be, if NC State's getting points, take the points on NC State, but I think Clemson wins outright. All right, so that is Savage and Average, episode 12. I'm your host, Matt McChesney. Thank you to our sponsors, Colorado Center for Functional Medicine, and of course, everybody's at Rico's Burritos for all that they do. Thank you to Travis Jones for all the hard work behind the mic, and a big thanks to Different Breeds, Gabe Knapton up there in Northern Colorado. Make sure you check that out and go support everything Gabe's doing as he's trying to do what I'm doing and change the state of Colorado for the better. I will be back next week. Romy Bean, the great sideline reporter for the Denver Broncos, and you can see her all over CBS, and I don't know if it's CBS, but all over the TV and all over social media. Romy's going to be joining us next week at the gym to talk NFL heavy and your Denver Broncos hopefully getting a win over the Las Vegas Raiders. All right, so thank you to everybody for listening, and we're out.